Good morning. Let's study another psalm. We last did Psalm 33. Psalm 34 and 35 are both long. They're great psalms. Go ahead and study them. For us to do them here together, I think it would be about an hour. So I want to keep these studies a little bit shorter than that. So we're going to jump to Psalm 36. I'll share my screen with you and come here to Bible Gateway. We're in the New Living Translation, and the first thing that we might notice as we look at this is a footnote. The psalm starts out, "Sin whispers to the wicked deep within their hearts." The footnote is in some Hebrew manuscripts, in the Syriac version, it reads, "in his heart, deep within his heart." The Masoretic text reads, "deep in my heart." Now, let's just do this. We'll use one of the tools that we've discovered. Look at Psalm 36:1, and we will look at it in all English translations to see what other translations do with it. So you'll notice, let's come down here to some versions that we might know. The King James Version, "the transgression of the wicked saith within my heart that there is no fear of God before his eyes." Well, that's a possibility. The New American Standard, "transgression speaks to the ungodly within his heart. There is no fear of God before his eyes." And then the NIV takes a very different approach. "I have a message from God in my heart concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. There is no fear of God before their eyes." That just kind of gives us an indication of the different types of translations that are possible here. Let's just go ahead and tear into the psalm. I have copied and pasted the New Living Translation here to a Word document. And we notice, "sin whispers to the wicked deep within their hearts. They have no fear of God at all." Uh, in their blind conceit, they cannot see how wicked they really are. Everything they say is crooked and deceitful. They refuse to act wisely or do good. They lie awake at night, hatching sinful plots. Their actions are never good. They make no attempt to turn from evil. And then it changes. "Your unfailing love, O Lord, is as vast as the heavens." So before we move on to that, let's recognize that we have a first stanza here. Verses 1 to 4 talk about the wicked. Stanza 1 tells us, first of all, about the nature in verse 1 and actions, verses 2 to 4, of those who are evil. Their nature, they have no fear of God. And what they do, they can't see how wicked they really are. Everything they say is crooked and deceitful. In fact, verse 4 talks about their actions. Their actions are never good. So let's just write down some of these actions. They don't fear God, and then they flatter themselves so much they can't see their own sin. They don't act wisely. They plot evil. They don't reject the wrong. See all of that up here? Everything they say is crooked and deceitful. They refuse to act wisely or do good. They lie awake at night hatching sinful plots. Now, the second stanza switches. Now, we're going to talk about the unfailing love of the Lord. It's as vast as the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches beyond the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mighty oceans. You care for people. There we go. How precious is your unfailing love. All humanity finds shelter in the shadow of your wings. We do notice here your unfailing love, O Lord, and here you care for people and animals alike. How precious is your unfailing love, O God. All humanity finds shelter in the shadow of your wings. You feed them from the abundance of your own house, letting them drink from the rivers of your delight. For you are the fountain of life, the light by which we see. Starting in verse 10, we again switch, and we now talk not about the evil, but about those who love you. So we have a second stanza that runs really from 5 to 9. Your unfailing love, O Lord, is vast as the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches beyond the clouds. Your righteousness and your justice. First of all, stanza 2 tells us about the nature and actions of God. First of all, his nature. He's loving, faithful, righteous, and just. And then his actions. God preserves. And people take refuge in God. Let's look at all of that again. Love, faithfulness, righteousness, justice. You care for people and animals alike. You have God's unfailing love again. Humanity finds shelter. You feed them, letting them drink. You are the fountain of life, the light by which we see. One of the things that I love about David is literally the poetry, just the poetic way in which he says things that I may feel, but I would never find a way to say it that way. Now, starting in verse 10, we now begin to talk about um, uh, excuse me, actually here in verse 9, we actually start, we have that first reference to we. So we'll separate that. You're the fountain of life. You're the light by which we see. Pour out your unfailing love on those who love you and give justice to those with honest hearts. Verses 11 and 12 seem to shift a little bit. We also see in stanza 3, it now breaks from talking about the nature and actions. Instead, you're the fountain of life, the light by which we see. Pour out your unfailing love on those who love you. Give justice to those with honest hearts. So here, what David wants to say is that those who follow God, and by that he means those who are with God, they know God, and they're upright. Let's look at all that again. They are with God, they know, and there is light, there is justice, they have honest hearts. Um, those who follow God see his light, um, and God shows them his love and righteousness. And that's his nature. Now, come back up here. Let's do observe this. Um, you get this repetition. It's your unfailing love. Actually, that's your unfailing love. How precious is your unfailing love. And then pour out your unfailing love on those who love you. So we have this repetition of love. We also have a repetition of righteousness. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. The word honest here is actually the word righteous. It's the righteous heart, the honest heart. Um, you see that more clearly in other translations, specifically the NIV. We could go in and do the Bible study in Logos. Just take my word for it. You have honesty here. You also have the repetition of justice and justice. Isn't that interesting? It leads me to think that perhaps faithfulness as well may be repeated in this section. My point is, God responds to people who follow him according to his nature. That's really interesting. Now, stanza 4, the last part of the psalm, David says, "Don't let the proud trample me or the wicked push me around. Look, those who do evil have fallen. They're thrown down, never to arise again." So the last stanza, David simply says, "Protect me from the evil." And then sort of a promise that he gives himself. Those who do evil have fallen, they're thrown down, never to arise again. So in this psalm, David contrasts stanza 1 and stanza 2. He contrasts the nature and actions of the evil to the nature and actions of God. Then he goes on to say that if we follow God, God will respond to us according to his nature, and he will show us love, faithfulness, righteousness, and justice. In addition, he teaches us how to respond. He pours out unfailing love on us who love him. He gives righteousness to those with righteous hearts. He gives justice to those who have received God's justice. Interesting psalm. Beautiful here how David contrasts the evil, not necessarily with the good, but with God himself. Says God acts very differently from the evil. The evil lie in wait, the evil flatter themselves, the evil plot evil, the evil won't reject the wrong. We're to be different, but we're to be different because God has shown us his nature and invited us to receive his nature. Beautiful psalm. See you next time.